Hey everyone, I bought this card 2 weeks ago and I think we can all agree that the RTX 50 launch has been flawless. There's been loads of stock, no problems at all with getting a card. You can even buy one for less than MSRP because Nvidia and the board partners are just acting out of the goodness of their heart. And I personally have had no issues at all with this card. I mean, when I'm using Windows, it certainly doesn't flicker with black screens and things like that. I certainly have no issues whatsoever with my dual monitor setup, and I can finally play Cyberpunk with no issues at all. I mean, it runs flawlessly and I can game for hours on end with no crashes or anything like that. That is what I would be saying if we lived in some alternate universe, but we live in this timeline, unfortunately, and as we all know, the RTX 50 series launch hasn't exactly been smooth. But despite that, I've actually been fairly impressed with my RTX 5080, other than playing Cyberpunk and one or two other annoying bugs, which I wanted to talk about in this mini review, because actually, if you can get a card for close to MSRP, I think it's actually a fairly good deal. But the first thing that I've actually been really impressed with this RTX 5080 is from a content creation perspective, and that's because previously I was using my AMD graphics card with an AMD CPU, and that's bad decision making on my part because previously as a content creator what you would usually do is have an Intel CPU that has QuickSync technology, and that QuickSync technology really helps with video editing and things like that. It really speeds things up, and obviously having an AMD CPU and GPU wasn't really ideal for that. But now I've actually got the Nvidia graphics card. I got too many boxes on my hand, but now I've actually got this Nvidia graphics card. I can actually see that I probably don't need as powerful of a CPU going forward, because when I'm doing video editing, whether I'm cutting clips or moving things around or playing back the timeline and previewing things, the actual graphics card is doing nearly all that work now and not the CPU. And then when I come to do the final export, again, the graphics card is doing everything. And previously what I was seeing with my AMD system is the graphics card was only in use like 10 to 20%, and then my CPU was actually doing all the work, and that's why I had a 12-core Ryzen CPU in my workstation computer, because my AMD GPU didn't really support things as well as it could have. And obviously this point isn't specific to the RTX 5080. I could have gone out and bought a 30 series card or 40 series card, and obviously that would have done a lot of the video encoding and playback and stuff too, and lighten the load on my CPU. But that is a point I wanted to make. But what is actually really interesting in the RTX 50 series release is they have more support for video codecs. For example, 422 10-bit video is now supported natively with the RTX 50 series range, and it wasn't with the 40 series range. But what that actually means is when you're video editing, it's now a lot quicker and smoother if your camera shoots in 10-bit, because now you've got native support for that with your Nvidia GPU. And that also means you no longer need an Intel CPU, because previously you needed that Intel QuickSync technology to actually handle that, and now you don't need that. So now it's actually perfectly viable to go out and have a 50 series Nvidia card and an AMD CPU and even like an X3D gaming chip or something, because you just don't need as much processing power from your CPU because of the RTX 50 series. So that is pretty cool. What's also cool is that export times have been sped up quite a lot on the 50 series, and I'm not exactly sure how they've achieved this, but Nvidia have a video which I'll link to down in the description that actually shows that there's a substantial improvement in the 50 series compared to the 40 series, and actually this has quicker export times than the 4090. I don't know exactly how they've achieved that. I'm holding the box upside down. And also when I come to export as well, I actually have more encoding options available. For example, the 50 series has support for the AV1 codec, and I can do 2-pass filters and things like that, which actually I couldn't do previously with my AMD GPU. And I also really like the game recording mode that's built into the Nvidia app, which previously was called Shadowplay, but actually it's amazing. Literally, I know I've got quite a powerful graphics card, but even if I'm playing at 4K, 60 FPS can be recorded with no issue whatsoever. It doesn't actually result in any FPS drop off at all. And that's because there's a separate video encoder and decoder actually built into the graphics card, which is separate to the graphical rendering part for gaming and stuff. So you can actually record games with no FPS drop off, or at least anything I've seen is less than like 1% drop off, which is really good. And again, I know I can't compare these too much because obviously this was like 3 times the price of this graphics card, but really I couldn't record my screen with this particular graphics card. I'd have to go to OBS at 1440p, record at 30 FPS, and even then I would get a noticeable FPS drop off. But what I can actually do with the RTX 5080 seems like some voodoo black magic, because I can literally record games at 8K at 60 FPS if I wanted, with no drop off whatsoever in the FPS rate, and I don't know how they've achieved that. But what it does mean is I don't actually need a capture card anymore. because previously I actually had two computers and a capture card in one of them, so I could record the output from the other one, the gaming output from the other one, with no FPS drop-off. But now I'm actually looking to sell that because I can just hit record in the NVIDIA app when playing a game with my RTX 5080 and it just works. So that is really cool. So from a content creator perspective, I'm very happy with the RTX 5080, and that is partly why I bought it. It's got the two video encoders and decoders, and it's got enough sort of raw processing power or rendering power that actually, you know, I can probably reduce my CPU requirements in the future and sell my capture card and everything like that. So that is really good. But when it comes to gaming, it's a bit more hit or miss because obviously, as we know, the generational gain is only like 10% more than the 4080 Super. And that is a fair point that a lot of the reviewers have actually made, because you do need to think about things like that. But actually, if you look at the card in isolation, it's a pretty damn good card at MSRP. And I'll talk about the pricing later because I know it's just gone ridiculous, especially in America. But certainly, you know, the RTX 5080 handles games flawlessly from what I've tested, like Cyberpunk at 4K with path tracing on my old graphics card, you know, I'd get 1 FPS. Basically, this card couldn't handle it, but actually my RTX 5080 handles it with no issue at all. Yes, and you know, you would need DLSS, obviously, if everything was completely maxed out, but in general, my RTX 5080 handles that really well. On both of my systems, one of them has a Ryzen 5900X CPU, and the other one has a 7600 CPU, so no 3D gaming chips or anything like that, but both actually handle gaming really well when paired with the RTX 5080, so I've been really impressed with that, other than when it comes to Cyberpunk, because that is just crashing left, right and center. I literally can't play it for more than 5 or 10 minutes before it crashes. And actually yesterday I was trying to film a video talking about something and Cyberpunk kept crashing over and over. And I do understand the irony that I've been talking about how amazing the card is for content creation, but yet it keeps crashing when I'm actually using it for content creation and playing Cyberpunk, so I do understand that. And if you look at the NVIDIA forums, it's full of people complaining about both the driver and the hotfix, saying that they just get loads of game crashes, which is a complete pain. But what I have found, at least for me, is it's only Cyberpunk that I'm having issues with. I can play Hogwarts Legacy, Red Dead Redemption 2, and loads of other games with no crashes, so it just seems to be Cyberpunk for now, which is a pity because that was the main game I wanted to play when I got my new graphics card, but hopefully that'll be fixed soon and then I can dive back into ray tracing overdrive goodness because the game looks absolutely stunning. But of course, not everything is rosy in the RTX 50 series land, and especially with this card, the RTX 5080, because it only has 16 gigs of VRAM. And if you were going to go out and buy like a ROG Astral, that's £1,500 in the UK and similar amount in the US, and that is completely bonkers to actually pay for a 16 gigabyte VRAM card. But certainly, if you look at the card in isolation, the RTX 5080, and you're able to get it for close to MSRP, I actually think it's a pretty damn good deal. But I do understand, you know, it's a complete pain. There's out of stock everywhere. The price at the moment is ridiculous if you do want a board partner card, and we don't know when the Founders Edition ones will next be in stock if you did want to try and get an MSRP one. So the whole launch is completely annoying right now. But that's kind of why I wanted to do this mini review, because overall I'm actually fairly happy with the card, and obviously I was able to buy one. I just got lucky. It literally, the add to basket link came up on the website, so I got completely lucky. But overall, I think this is a pretty damn good card if you can get it for MSRP or close to MSRP. I mean, it handles everything I've thrown at it with complete ease, and certainly for content creation, I think it's especially good, and that's a point I'm going to come back to in future videos when I do a more full review of this particular card. But for now, that wraps up this mini review. If you've got any questions, please let me know down in the comments, and other than that, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please click the thumbs up button, and please subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.